Kakadosh, Boker Or, Masechet Batra Daf Yomi, Daf Kuf Samech Amud Aleph 165a1. We're just starting in Kuf Samech Daled Amud Bet. The Gemara said, Amar Rav Amram Rav. Says Rav Amram in the name of Rav. Shalosh Averot and Adab Nitzot Mehem B'chol Yom. There are three Averot that a person is not safe from them every single day. Meaning every single day there's an element of these three Averot. Number one, Irur Averah. Number two, Iyun Tfilah. Look in the Tosafot, where it says Iyun Tfilah. He holds that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to pay him his reward and accept his tefillah because he prayed b'chavana. That's the Rashbam. But some people ask, right, what does that mean? Right? So he says, how could it be that every single day he's going to think about that? So he comes and he says, okay, a person cannot have kavanah to come and start thinking about that every single day, because not every day you have kavanah. Well, fine, but that's the Iyun Tfilah. En Lashon Hara. Basically, it's the avera. It's not an avera. This is the iyun tefillah, is that ki'ilu that HaKadosh Baruch Hu owes him something, and that's where the avera comes in. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not owe you anything. No matter how much you come and you have your kavanot in your tefillot, and you come and you do like this 100 times and you kiss or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Okay? Yes. Yeah. Lashon hara sal kadaitach. He says, well, lashon hara. Ella, but rather avak lashon hara. We're not talking about mamash lashon hara gamur. Even avak lashon hara, but it's very difficult. Remember, that means even avak lashon hara is going to be, it's a problem, right? Everyone knows what avak lashon hara is? No. Avak lashon hara is basically that, for example, somebody says, right? Somebody comes in and they say, I need a place where to stay. I go to David. He's always having meat. He's always got a barbecue. So now there's two things. Either because Bla'inara, he's always a good guy that he has a lot of guests. Or Bla'inara, yeah, he likes to feed himself. So he's always got something on the grill. So I said something that could be explained in two different manners. For the positive or for the negative. Now, when I say that, it all depends. Because if I say that in front of you, so it depends. How are people going to take it? So therefore, that's called avak lashon hara. Because technically speaking, I could have said it in a very ke'ilu, passive, nice way, ki'ilu, but I just said lashon hara. Okay? So Amar Rav Yehuda Marav says Rav Yehuda Marav, Rov. One second. Rov. What is Rov? The majority of people are begezel.
What?
Or begezel. They're going to be suspected of gezel. Miut barayot. Yeah? The minority in arayot. Ve'akol. But everybody in Lashon Hara. So says the Gemara again. Lashon Hara sal kadaitach. Ela berather avak Lashon Hara. Avak Lashon Hara. That's what it means. That everyone is going to be in avak Lashon Hara. Oh. So two dots. Kuf Samech Amud Aleph says that we were quoting the Mishnah. Rashba gomer hakol ki minhag hamedina. Everything goes according to the minhag of the Medina. So says the Gemara. We thought that he's coming to say that if in a certain Medina they have a minhag to change the din of a shtar mekushar in another way, so you do it that way. Tanakama letle minhag medina. What? Tanakama doesn't hold of this. Tanakama doesn't hold of the concept of minhag medina. So Amar Ravashi says, Ravashi, Be'atra denehige pashut. We're talking about a place where they only write a shtar pashut. Ve'amaleh, and he told the sofer, avdile pashut. Make me a shtar pashut. Ve'azal avile mekushar. Then he went and he made him a shtar mekushar. Kpeida, right? What does that mean? The Mishaleach is going to be makpid that he wanted a pashut. And therefore, since he went and he changed it, it's going to be pasul. Nehige mekushar. What happens if there's a place where they have a minhag of doing a shtar mekushar? Ve'amaleh, and he told him, avile mekushar, make me a mekushar. Ve'azal avile pashut. And then he went and he made a shtar pashut. Kpeida. What does it mean, kpeida? Again, why? In each one of these places, the sofer is doing the exact opposite of what the guy told him. You have the Mishaleach. Yeah, the Mishaleach is the messenger, the one that's sending the messenger. The sofer is ki'ilu is shaliach. So now when he comes and he does something completely different, he's makpid. What are you doing? What are you changing? So he says, Kiplige, when is a machloke then? In a city where they do also pashut and also mekushar, meaning they do both. He tells the sofer, make me pashut, and he made him mekushar. More savak pay. The Tanakama holds that it's makpid. Why? Because I told you to do something, don't do something different. Or more savak, but more says no. Mare makomulo. He was just giving him a sign. But since in that place there's a minhag medina to do both, he's not makpid. And therefore it's going to be okay. So Amar Abaye says, Rashbag Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Lazar, whether it's going to be Rashbag, Rabbi Shimon, or Rabbi Lazar, they all hold Mare makomulo. Which means he was just showing him Mare makom, and he's not going to be makpid, right, in what he's saying. Okay? Rashbag, who right Hadamran, Rabbi Shmuel comes and he says that which we said. Yeah, he comes and he says, right, Rabbi Shimon, the Trump we learned to the Mishnah in Kiddushin. Rabbi Shimon comes, right, and he says, yeah, im hit'a l'shvach. If the Mekadesh is going to be mat'eh the Isha for better. Right? So for example, he comes and he says, right, go get married, do Kiddushin, right? And he kachili b'dinar shel kesef. And then instead of kesef, he gave her a dinar. Zahav. Right? That means instead of kesef, he gave her gold. Right? Arezu mekudeshet. She's going to be mekudeshet. Well, that means that means even though he went and he tricked her, right? But at the end of the day, he went up. Rabbi Elazar Ditran, Elazar, as we learned in the Mishnah, Hayisha Shamra, a woman that says, get my get from this certain place, and he got another place, it's going to be pasul. Rabbi Elazar comes and he says machshir, more savak peida, or more savak makom. Basically, is it a peida or is it a makom? The peida means that you're makpid that I specifically wanted in this place. Why? I don't know. There could be a crazy reason. It could be that she wanted there so everyone sees. It could be whatever the case is, or that's where they first got engaged. So now she wants to get exactly in that same place. Whatever, there could be millions of reasons. But that's a kavanah that he's makpid, that it's on the makom. Yeah. However, though, right, there's another shita which is a mare makom. Mare makom means I'm just showing you a place, but it could be anywhere. I don't care where it is. I'm just like, by the way, this is usually where you're going to find the guy. But not that you have to take it from there. It's called mare makom. Okay, fine. 2 dots. Kuf samech amud aleph towards the bottom. 2 dots. Pashut shekatuv bo ev echad. When you have a pashut, a get pashut, or a shtar pashut, and it only has 1 witness, or a mekushar, and only has 2 witnesses, they're both going to be pasul. That's the Gemara. Bishama mekushar shekatuv shnei edim pasul itzrich. I understand that if you're going to have a shtar mekushar, and you'll have 2 witnesses, and it's still going to be pasul, that's a chidush. Why is there a chidush? Because I would have thought to say holu ve'alma kasher, but derech klal with 2 witnesses it's kosher. Hachanami kasher, so to here it's going to be kosher. Kamash malan, so therefore the Mishnah has to teach you no, that if you have a shtar mekushar with 2 witnesses, it's going to be pasul. That is a chidush. But he says pashut shekatuv bo ed echad shita. I don't understand you. You have a shtar pashut, but you only have 1 witness. Now says the Mishnah, it's pasul. Yeah, you know how the teenagers do it. Duh. What does that mean? Obviously, yeah, pashut. You only have 1 witness. Obviously, it's gonna be pasul. So says the Gemara, Amar Abaye. Abaye comes and he says, Lo nitzrecha. What are we dealing with? Tafilu ed echad bichtav ve'ed echad bal peh. It's still gonna be pasul. You know what the chidush is? You do have 2 witnesses. But 1 is signed and 1 is oral. Meaning the 2 witnesses are there present, but one of them is doing a signature, which means bichtav. The other one is al peh. So therefore he comes and says, that's still shtar pasul. Because even though at the end of the day you do have 2 witnesses, they're both not written down on the shtar. Ameimar argues, Ameimar achshar. So no, it's going to be kosher. Pedecha bichtav vedecha bal peh. Amale Ravashi, so says Ravashi to Ameimar, the hada abaye mai. That what Rabbi said, right? What's the nugaya to you? Elmaleh says lo shmiali. I never heard of Rabbi. So remember, lo shmiali means klomar lo sfirali. I don't hold of it. Meaning sometimes the person you come and say, yeah, but Rabbi, never heard of it. I never heard of it. No. It means that I don't hold of it. No, you never heard of it. You heard of it. You just don't hold of it. Okay? Ella, but rather, Kashya, we have a question. 165b. So Kasha Matznitin, we have a question from the Mishnah. Why? The Mishnah said mefurash that when you have a pashut with 1 ed, it's going to be pasul. Yeah. So therefore, what's the chidush? The chidush is that kilu edecha bichtav edechad bal peh, that they're not going to be mitzaref, right? Why do you have to teach that? It's barur. So he says that Kamashmalan comes teach you the Shnaim b'mekushar ke'ed echad b'pashut. That's what it was teaching you. 2 edim by a mekushar is like 1 ed by a pashut. And just like over there, mahatan, just like over there by a pashut, it's a psul deoraita, which means midoraita it's pasul, because lo yakum edechad beish, which means that you cannot accept testimony of an individual for a, that's why it's doraita. So to hear afarachanami, so to hear psula doraita. By a shtar mekushar, it's going to be pasul mina Torah. Now, obviously, that does not mean literally, right? The kavanah is chachamim paslu, even b'diavad. That's a pshat. That's what's brought down in the Rashbam, because obviously you can't say it midoraita, but it's not written in the Torah, right? And the Torah just says, al pi shnayim edim yikum davar, right? You have 2 witnesses v'gamarnu. So the fact that you need 2 witnesses by the pashut does not mean by mekushai, because mekushai you always needed 3. But that just means that even the meaning midrabanan, even b'diavad is going to be pasul. And they were putting them both together, meaning just like by edechad, it's pasul mina Torah, right? So to here, it's going to be pasul, right? Even b'diavad, right, from the chachamim. Teida, right? You should know. What's the proof? The shalchu mitam chavraya l'Rabbi Yirmiyah, right? That the chavrim in the Bet Midrash they sent to Rabbi Yirmiyah. Edechad bichtav, edechad bal peh. Ma'u sheyitztarfu. They asked him this question. One witness which is signing, and one witness which is bal peh. Can they combine together or not? Aliba the Tanakama, the Rabbi Yishom Kurcha, according to the Tanakama and Rishom Kurcha, for sure there's not a question, right? There's no doubt. Tafilu b'shnaim b'ktav u'shnaim bal peh lo mitzarfim. Because even if you have 2 b'chtav and 2 bal peh, they're not going to be mitzarfim, right? So kol sheken 1 and 1. If you're going to tell me even 2 and 2, they're not mitzaref, meaning you have two groups of witnesses, two witnesses that actually signed on the document, and 2 witnesses that were witnessed it, right? And they're still not mitzaref. So if 2 and 2 are not mitzaref, kal v'chomer 1 and 1 is not going to be mitzaref. Ela ki tibai lecha, but when is the doubt? The doubt is according to Rabbi Yishom ben Korcha. In according to Rabbi Yishom ben Korcha, shnai mikav v'shnai bal peh mitzarfe. Aval ed echad ve'ed echad lo mitzarfin. Odima lo shna. According to Rabbi Yishom ben Korcha, you do have a concept of 2 and 2. 2 witnesses, they sign on the document. And 2 witnesses that they see it, right? And they testify about it, they combine. According to Rabbi Yishom ben Korcha. So the question is, if according to Rabbi Yishom ben Korcha, right, you could combine 2 and 2, what's the halakha in 1 and 1? Do I say that just like you combine 2 and 2, you could combine 1 and 1? Or do I say no? Right? You can't do that. So Shalach lehu, so Rabbi Yirmiyah sent, Ani eni kedai sheshalachtem lizo, right? I'm not kedai to answer this question. Ela kach dat talmidechem noteh sheitztarfu. But this is the dat of your talmid that comes and he says they are mitztarfim. So as you see from here, right, that Rabbi Yirmiyah held like him, that ed echad b'shtar and ed echad bal peh, they agree. Yeah, they combine. So Elmaleh, so comes Rav Ashi and he says to Ameimar, Ana nahachi matnina la. This is what we're going to teach. Tishalchu lechavraya leRabbi Yirmiyah. But sent the chaverim to Rabbi Yirmiyah. Shnayim sheyidu echad bevedin zeh veechad bevedin zeh. Ma'u sheyavohu bedin etzel bedin v'itztarfu. He comes and he says an incredible case. Listen to this. You've got 2 witnesses, but each one testified in a different bedin. So you have one that's testifying in bedin aleph, and one testifying in bedin bet. Can both the bedins come together, and then we're going to be mitzaref the 2 eduyot, and therefore we could judge? Aliba the Tanakama de Rabbi Natan, according to the Tanakama of Rabbi Natan, that he says that they're not going to be mitzaref unless they testify together. Loti ba'elecha, for sure, it's not a question. Dafilu bechad bedina namilo mitzarfe. But even if they testified in the same bedin, it's not mitzaref, because they didn't testify together. For them to need a good testimony, you need 2 witnesses together. So even in the same bedin, it's not mitzaref. So kal v'chomer, if it's not mitzaref in the same bedin, so kal v'chomer, there's no question about 1 in one bedin, 1 in another bedin, try to put them together. That bichal is not a question. That's what he says. Bichlal aliba did comment. It's not even a doubt. But according to Shtat Rabbi Natan is a question. Why? Because according to Rabbi Natan, right, you could have 1 witness testifying now, and 1 witness in the same bedin testifying 10 minutes later, and we combine them. We combine them. That's according to the Tanakama of Rabbi Natan. One more time, there are two shitot. Tanakama of Rabbi Natan, even in the same bedin, it doesn't help unless they testify together. According to Rabbi Natan, they do combine as long as it's in the same bedin. So says the Gemara, Aliba de Rabbi Natan, according to Shitat Rabbi Natan, Bechad Beidina Ude Mitzarfet. Do you say that they're only mitzaref in the same betin, in one betin? Aval Bitre Beidina, but two different betins. Then lo mitzarfet, they do not combine. Well, Dilmar maybe Loshna, there's no difference. Meaning, he said you could testify one after another. You have two witnesses. What do I care that they have to come together? Even one after another, even in two different betins. So Shalach Lehu, Rabbi Yirmiyah sent, Ana eni kadai shatem shalachtem li. I'm not kadai to answer this question. But this is a dat of Tamidichem, note, shema, sheitztarfu. They do combine. Right? So now you're going to have a third version in the question and the answer. One more time. This is always going to be a question that they sent to Rabbi Yirmiyah and an answer. There were three different versions, right, of the same question. Sorry, there's going to be four. There's a fourth one as well. Okay, but this is the third one now. So the first version of the question had to do with Ktav and Balpeh, right? Second one is, you're not talking about Ktav and Balpeh, but just two witnesses, one not at the same time, right? And then we had the question, is it going to be, right, in the same bedin, different bedin? The third one, Mor Barachi Aman, Hachi Shalchulu, Shnaim Sheidu B'vedin Zeh, V'chazru V'yidu B'vedin Zeh. Two witnesses that testified in one bedin. Then the two witnesses came and they testified in another bedin. Ma'u sheyavo echad mikol bedin v'yitztarfu. Can you have one of the two dayanim to be mitzaref in order to make a new din? Yeah? Everyone understood? Again? I sorry, I didn't understand the question. So says the Gemara, Aliba de Rabbi Natan, according to Rabbi Natan, that he says that edim are mitzarfim zeh lezeh, lo tibay lecha, right? Because then for sure there's no question. Because hashta edim mitzarfim, you're going to tell me now that you could be mitzaref te edim, tayane mibaye? Obviously you could, right? Meaning like this, if right now, according to Shidat Rabbi Natan, you could combine two different witnesses, kal v'chomer you could combine different dayanim. So then when is the safek? Aliba de Tanakama de Rabbi Natan. According to the Tanakama of Rabbi Natan. Right? Why? Because he says, Edim hu de lo mitzarfinan. You can't be mitzaref edim. Ava dayanim mitzarfinan. Maybe you could be mitzaref the dayanim, right? Because even though they heard it benifrad, but you could still combine the dayanim, because they're not actually doing testimony. They're just coming and they're just giving a psak. Or dimar maybe. Loshna, there's no difference. Right? So Shalach Lu, he sent to them, Ani ani kedai, again, I'm not going to be fitting to Paskin She'ela, Shetem Shalachtem li, but they can be mitzaref. So remember, every single one of these, it's always the same answer. He keeps on saying, I'm not kedai to answer, but this is what that they are mitzaref. The first original question was to do with one balpeh and one biktav. The second one was, right, that we're talking about two of them, right, in ktav, but it was in two different bedins, right? So, and now the third one is dayanim, and it's always the same answer. Dati shemitzarfim. Yeah, that's what he keeps on saying. Fourth version of the question. Ravina says, this is what they sent to him. You have three dayanim that they're sitting, and they're going to validate a document. Remember that they have to put the gushpanka pudding. They do that in Tallahassee. What's it called when they? No, there's a word for it. They have to put the apostille, but I forgot the actual the thing. Okay, so you have to come and you have to actually validate it. Yeah, so he comes over here like this. He says, one of them died. So before they actually finished the validation, one of them died. They have to write, right? Do they have to write down that we were actually three people and now right? Notarized, thank you. Right, but it's a special notarized. It's not just notarized. It's notarized. Everyone could do, but it has to be like with yeah. So he says b'motav tlata havina, right? That we were there with three, okay. V'chad letohi, and one of them is not with us. Olo. By the way, I actually have a document like that. There was actually in the middle of a teshuvah that they asked me. Somebody sent it to me. They asked me, "Do you know what these Rashi Tevot were?" And that's what it was. It was b'motav tlata havina v'chad letohi. We were three when we judged this case, but one of them is not here now. And then they went and they had to sign it. Meaning that, let's say, for example, one dayan had to go out of nowhere, or what? So he's not here anymore now. But the truth is, but they were three dayanim at the time, and that's how they paskin. So therefore, they would write this. So that's the question: do they have to write down b'motav tlata havina that we were sitting three, v'chad letohi, and one of them is not with us now, or lo, or not, or they don't have to write that. So shalachlu, he said, "Ani kadash shatem shlachtem mishela zo, lakachta tamidechem noteh tzrichim lemichtav." You do have to write. And then with this, they brought him into the Bet Midrash. Right? What does that mean? They went and they took him out of the Bet Midrash because he asked a bad question. You remember? No? So if you remember in Daf Kav Gimel Amud Bet, he asked a bad question because the question was to do with a chicken. Right? How far away does it go from its chicken coop? And then they went and they said, I don't remember if it was like 25 or more. They said a certain number. So then he went and he said, okay, fine. What happens if 1 foot is on the inside and 1 foot is on the outside? And they went and they threw him out of the Bet Midrash. Why? Because what's he trying to ask? Right? These type of meaning that sometimes you have to be. I remember I had a Rav, right? We would say, Rabbi, what if? He used to stop us right away. He says, stop. He didn't even listen to the question. What if? That's it. Why? There's no what ifs. There's a question is based upon understanding in the Gemara that what if this, what if that? Yeah, we're not. This is not the theoretical. What's written? You understand? There has to be a certain kav of a machshava, right? I didn't. I'm a little bit more. How do you call this? How do you call? Says a Mishnah. Katuv bo zuzin mea dinun sil'in esrim. If it's written in a document, right, that ploni lavabi ploni zuzin mea, 100 zuz, which is going to be 20 slaim. Right? Now, what happens is that we have a technical issue. It's 25, right? Because every single sela is 4 zuz. So it comes out that there's a stira, there's a contradiction in the document. Yeah. So the question is, what do you go by? If you say 100 zuz, it's 25 slain. But then you said 100 zuz, but you did say 20 slain. So what does he get? Says the Gemara, the Mishnah, eno ela esrim. He only gets 20 slain. That means that's the only thing that he could collect, 20 slain. If it's written zuzin mea dinun tlatin slain, what if it's written more? It says the 100 zuz, but instead of 25 slain, it says 30 slain. En lo ela maneh. He only has 100 zuz. Right? Why? Because basically what we're trying to say is that the yad balashtar is always on a tachtona, meaning that he always has the lower hand. And since he always has the lower hand, if he wrote 20, he only gets 20. If he wrote 30, he only gets a 25. Because the maximum that was written there was you understand? Meaning that meaning he always gets the lower amount. Doesn't matter which one it is. Kesef zuzin dinun. If it's written, the zuzim had to be from kesef, right? V'nimchak, right? And then, right, it was erased. How much? Meaning it says kesef zuzin dinun. How much are they? It's written. It's erased. I don't know how much they were.
So it goes by the minimum.
Yeah. No? So he says en pachot mishtaim. You only go by 2 zuz because obviously the fact that you said zuzin, so it's plural. So the minimum of plural is 2. So you go by the minimum. Why? Because I don't know. It could have been 2. It could have been 100. I don't know. But it was erased. So I can't do anything. Kesef sil'in dinun. If he wrote slaim kesef nimchak, and in pachot mishtaim, again, you get 2 slaim. Darkonot dinun. It's going to be darkonot v'nimchak. And pachot mishtaim. Again, you're going to have shtaim. Okay? It's a coin. Right? No, the darkon is a matbiya of zahav. You have gold. Okay? Katubo milmala mane umilemata matayim. What happens at the beginning of the document? It says it was 100 zuz. But towards the end of the document, it says 200 zuz. Or the opposite. Milmala matayim. At the beginning it was written 200, and at the bottom he has 100. Olech achara tachton. You go after the last one. The one on the bottom. Im ken, if so, lama kotvin et ha'elyon. Why do you write the elyon? Sheim timachek ot achat min ha'tachton, yilma min ha'elyon. Because if something gets erased from the bottom one, you learn it from the top one. Meaning, we write it twice, at the top and at the bottom. But if we always go after the bottom, what do I care about the top? It says, no. The reason why is because just in case something gets erased, I'm going to learn it from that which is written. But that is, by the way, I think, right, probably one of the reasons why in a check you write both, right? Not only just that way there's no mistakes, because many times, with numbers and then writing it out, but that way you're always able to know, right, the corrections, or you're able to see, this is what he meant. You understand? Now it's true, when there's a stirah between the number and what's written, we go after what's written, right? But that's just the concept. Okay, so that was the Mishnah. Okay. That's the Gemara. Tanu Rabbanam. We learned in a Braita. Amar kesef. Right? When a person comes and he says kesef. En pachot midinar kesef. There's not going to be less than a dinar of kesef. So it's always going to be a dinar. Okay? Kesef dinarim. And he didn't explain it much. The dinarim kesef. And pachot mishne dinarim kesef. There's not going to be less than 2. Right? Kesef dinar bedinarim. And pachot mibishne dinarim dehav. So it's not going to be less than 2 dinarim zahav. Right, with a Masechet of kesef, which means that he was loveh, he borrowed a Masechet shel kesef with the shovi of 2 dinarei zahav. Okay, basically we're trying to say what is the minimum of each language that a person would come and use. So Amar Mormor says kesef and pachom dinar kesef. So he says ve'ima naska. Maybe it's just a piece of it's just a chatichat kesef. It's not even a matbea, right? It's just a piece of silver. So Amar Bilazar says Bilazar, it's written matbea shel kesef. Meaning it's written a matbea. Matbea is a coin. It's not just a piece of silver. Ve'ima prite. So he says, okay, so maybe it's a pruta of kesef, right? Which means it's like the pennies, right? That's called the frutot. So Rav Papa says Batra Daf prite de kaspa. Says they never take little coins of kesef, meaning it doesn't exist little tiny things. Even in many places in the world, they're getting rid of pennies. For example, Canada, they're getting rid of the pennies. In certain places, they don't want to deal with pennies anymore. They tried to take away. No, even if they're still going to have other coins, but the smallest denomination, they're already getting rid of it. It's going higher. Bitcoin. Yeah?
Exactly.
Yeah? Tanu Rabbanam, we learned in a Braita. They have. When a person says zahav, en pachom dinar zahav. They have dinarim and dinarim zahav, and pachom shne dinarim zahav. Has to be the minimum of 2 dinarim zahav. The have bedinarim. Remember, the have, the dalet and the zayin are interchangeable because they come from the same. How do you call this? From the same place of the mouth. Okay, so that's why the dalet and zayin, right? Dahav, right? Dahav is gold, like zahav. Okay, so he says em pachom mishne dinarim kesef dahav. So Amar more says dehav em pachom dinar dehav eimanaska. So he says maybe it's going to be silver. So Rabbi Elazar says Elazar matbea dahav. It says it's a matbea of dahav. So I asked the Gemara, maybe it's going to be prite. So answers the Gemara, pirut the dahav lo avdin. Nobody's going to make a coin of zahav. Taking gold and making it into a coin, it just doesn't make sense. Okay, that's what he says.